Okay, Unit 16, Lesson 1 is standard deviation. So we're going to spend 2 days talking about this in different ways. So in the first one, we're going to find out how to calculate it by hand. So variance is the measurement of the spread between numbers in a data set, okay? And then standard deviation is the measurement of how spread out numbers are. So just a little fun fact, the square root of variance is how we actually find standard deviation by hand. So you can use a graphing calculator to find this information, but I'm going to show you how to do it by hand so everyone has access to it even with just a simple cell phone calculator. Okay, so the steps to find standard deviation, I've listed them out. And this is my disclaimer that if you do know how to do this on a graphing calculator, you're welcome to do it, okay? We just can't provide that to everybody. So in the next section, you won't be doing this by hand, but we'll be using the information of standard deviation, okay? So example number 1, we have these dogs and they tell you the height. So I just went ahead and labeled them just because I like the visual representation, but they tell you 600, 470, 170, 430, and 300. We need to find the mean, which is the average, the variance, and the standard deviation. So we're not going to use the information in this section, we're just going to find it. So for our mean, that's the average, we're going to add up the scores. And if you're using a cell phone, please hit enter or use a parenthesis. I'll use a parenthesis here, and then you divide it by how many scores, heights or scores, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many scores there are. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've got 600 plus 470 plus 170 plus 430 plus 300. So if I wasn't using parentheses, I would hit enter, and then I would divide by 5. So I got 394. So our mean is 394, okay? All right, so let's do the next. So the next is just going to take, we are going to find the variance. So for variance, what we need to do is we need to calculate the difference from the mean for each value. So I'm going to use red. So I'm going to take each score and I'm going to use parentheses. So I've got 600 is our first minus our average, and we're going to square it, plus our second score is 470 from the average. Our next, and you can subtract because even the negative, when it squares it, it will make it positive. That was 170, so I have 430. And then my last score. Okay, all of that would go together, and then we're going to find the average. So we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 results. Okay, so I'm going to type those in. So 600 minus 394 plus 470. And you can do this with any calculator. I'm doing it all together so I don't have to write down my values, but if you don't feel comfortable, you're welcome to write them down. As your work, write this on your paper. You're not gonna, I'm not gonna be able to see what you type in, but this is what counts for your work. Same thing with mean. I know you can do that in your head, but to get credit, you have to show what you're typing into the calculator. Okay? So I'm gonna hit enter, and then I divide it by 5. Okay, so our variance, which the symbol for variance is this Greek symbol, is 221,704. That's our variance. All right. And the last thing that we have to find by hand is the standard deviation. So I'm going to circle this, and I'm going to circle this. And so standard deviation, the symbol is just the Greek symbol. and it's the square root of variance, which, if we type that into a calculator, so I'm just going to go to 2 decimal places, 147.32. Usually standard deviation is a whole number, so in that case I would just say 147. Okay, it just depends on how the question is asked. And that is how you do it by hand.